All right. So this is the first time streaming on YouTube. Somebody has suggested I get a guest host, but I don't like anyone, so I'm going to do it alone. Now, obviously, this first episode is going to be mostly me trying to figure out that I've got everything reconnected again. I used to do podcasts and long since took down the mixer and all that stuff, so we're going to see if it all works again. But what I really want to talk about today is, well, two things. First one is kind of serious. That's what's going on now. And the second thing that we're going to be talking about is a little more lighthearted. But first of all, let's get into what's going on for the past week. And this is aside from the other drama that normally follows Donald Trump around. Specifically, he can't shut his mouth. He's got to respond to everything. But just turn that levels down a little. Okay, there we go. Now, of course, this week is all about Charlottesville and what happened in Charlottesville. He had a long press conference, of course, on Monday, I guess. And it kind of went off the rails. He was supposed to be talking about infrastructure. He ended up talking about Charlottesville and neo-Nazis and white supremacists and, all the nutty people that showed up to stop the removal of the Robert E. Lee statue. Now, I personally don't care one way or the other about statues of guys that are long dead. I don't think that you're racist if you went out there to protest against the removal, but there were definitely some racist people there. Now, Trump was pretty clear on that. He tried to correct them repeatedly, but you heard them keep trying to inject a position on his behalf. In other words, if you watch, you will see, and I've got the clip here, so we can actually watch it and see what he said.
And it's very important.
Mr. President, are you putting what you're calling the alt-left and white supremacists on the same moral plane?
I'm not putting anybody on a moral plane. What I'm saying is this. You had a group on one side and you had a group on the other, and they came at each other with clubs, and it was vicious, and it was horrible, and it was a horrible thing to watch. But there is another side. There was a group on this side, you can call them the left, or you've just called them the left, that came violently attacking the other group. So you can say what you want, but that's the way it is.
On both sides, sir? You said there was hatred, there was violence on both sides.
Well, I do think there's blame. Yes, I think there's blame on both sides. You look at both sides. I think there's blame on both sides, and I have no doubt about it, and you don't have any doubt about it either. And if you reported it accurately, you would say.
Neo-Nazis started this. They showed up in Charlottesville. They showed up in Charlottesville to protest.
Excuse me. They didn't put themselves down as you. And you had some very bad people in that group. But you also had people that were very fine people on both sides. You had people in that group. Excuse me. I saw the same pictures as you did. You had people in that group that were there to protest the taking down of, to them, a very, very important statue and the renaming of a park from Robert E. Lee to another name.
Robert E. Lee are not the same.
No, George Washington was a slave owner. Was George Washington a slave owner?
Now, this is the part where Trump, of course, goes kind of off the rails here. I don't know what he's talking about. He starts bringing up George Washington and Thomas Jefferson. But as you can hear by the guys in the back, they keep trying to put words in his mouth. And I'm not a Trump fan. Never liked him. Didn't like him when he used to do his TV show. Didn't like him back in the 90s. Still don't like him. But he is our president, and this is what we're stuck with now. After 8 years of one clown, we move on to another clown. No more to say about that. But Donald Trump, at this point, could have just shut up. He had already covered it. They're not going to listen to what he says. And if you watch the full clip, you'll see that he repeatedly tells them, no, I'm not talking about the fine folks being white supremacists. He's talking about the other people that were there simply to protest taking down of a historical statue. They weren't racist. They weren't like, oh, he stands for something we believe in. They were like, it's been there for ages. The statue's been there. Obama had 8 years to take it down, didn't bother with it. And before him, you had Clinton, didn't bother to take it down. And before him, you had, of course, Jimmy Carter, didn't bother to take it down. None of these guys bothered to take it down. Now, this is suddenly a problem. Well, we have to kind of think about what exactly, what they're doing here. What exactly does the right and the left want from this? And when I'm talking about the right, I'm talking about the people they label as right, the guys from the Nazis, the skinheads, the white supremacists, the white nationalists, and then Antifa and the left. What do they want from this? Well, the first question I have, and it's kind of sketchy. Of course, we'll find out more in the coming weeks. I'm sure Jeff Sessions is probably on this. But there's some culpability on the part of the mayor of the city for sure. Why did they pull those people off of the cops away from what was going on? If you look at other protests, they generally have a double barrier. So they have a barrier at the very outer edge of where the protest is happening. And then they have an inner area, which is where the police stand. Then they have another barrier, another barricade. And then inside of those barricades is where the protest would happen. And then the counter protest would be on the outside of that. This is the way it works, at least in Charlottesville, when you have a permit. Now, in this particular case, they didn't have that barrier. They had one simple barricade, not the double barricade. And they did not put the cops between the leftists and the people that were protesting to keep the statue there. And again, it was, to be clear, it was a mixture of people wanting to keep the statue simply because it was a historical figure and not that they supported what Robert E. Lee did. And we can get into a whole discussion about who Robert E. Lee really was. He obviously was fighting for the side that wanted to keep slavery going. So that right there makes him kind of a bad guy. Not kind of, but he's a bad guy. But then if you understand his motivations more, and the fact that he did surrender, but he's a part of history. And people want to preserve that statue. Because remember, when you preserve things in statue or in painting or in words, what you're doing is you're saying this is what actually happened. So, either in this case, it's don't let it happen again. This is a lesson from history. But it could also mean, oh, we honor this guy. Whatever it is, it's up to the individual to decide how they interpret that statue. Now, earlier today, apparently, Charles Barkley shocked the world. And of course, he's going to get, I don't know if they're going to be able to beat him into submission to issue an apology for his position on that. I could try to bring that audio up. Let me see if I can find it here real quick. All right, so let's listen to Barkley's take on this whole thing.
I'm not going to waste my time worried about these Confederate statues. That's wasted energy. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to keep doing great things. I'm going to keep trying to make a difference, number one, in the black community because I'm black, but I'm also going to try to do good things in the world. I'm not going to waste my time screaming at a neo-Nazi who's going to hate me no matter what. And I'm not going to waste my time trying to worry about these statues they got all over the country.
So do you leave them up and ignore them? Or do you
I've always ignored them. Rick, I'm 54 years old. I've never thought about those statues a day in my life. I think if you ask most black people, to be honest, They ain't thought a day in their life about those stupid statues. What we as black people need to do, we need to worry about getting our education. We need to stop killing each other. We need to try to find a way to have more economic opportunity and things like that. Don't waste, those things are important and significant. You know, I'm wasting time and energy screaming at a neo-Nazi or, man, you gotta take this statue down.
Okay, so there's Charles Barkley's take on the whole thing. Now, obviously the left is going to start a raging fit over what Barkley just said there. And that's the best question I think that's been asked so far is nobody cared about that statue until last week. Nobody cared, including black people. That's what he was saying. I'm only paraphrasing him. He said, if you ask most black people, none of them been worried about it. They've ignored it. Because the guy asked him, what are we supposed to do? Just ignore the statue? Absolutely. Ignore it. What do you care? It's a statue. And what was the reason for protesting it in the first place? And I'm talking about the skinheads, the KKK guys, the white supremacists, the Nazis. What was their reason for going out there? And then also, what was the reason for the guys on the left that went out there? Now, keeping in mind that we can't be stupid about this. Of course, some people that were on the left were just there innocently to protest the statue in general. But they were just wanting to voice their position, and that's it. It stops there. The same on the people that were protesting the taking down of the statue. Some of them were there because they hate black people. They hate people of color. They're racists. They're white supremacists. Those guys were bad. But among them, and I'm not saying in the same group as, because they're two different mindsets there, and it seems like we can't get past that. We can't understand that even on the left, keeping in mind I'm conservative, I'm on the right. But I can see that there are people on the left, and again, I'm more towards the liberal than actual leftists. But there are people, liberals, that just want, for example, they don't want that symbolism of a Confederate guy. They just don't want it there because it just sends a bad. It's like honoring the guy, and that's the only reason they want it taken down. And then there's people on the right. They don't want it to stay up because they're racist. They want it to stay up because it's already there. It was commissioned. It was put up. And they don't want it because they don't like black people or people of color. They want it there because it represents a historical figure. A figure that was a part of our history. We have a checkered past in this country, of course. Like most countries, we have a checkered past. And they just want to say, look, this was part of it. You're not going to erase it. So why are they there then? Well, I think the people on the left are there because they want to make the right look bad. And they will use every opportunity to do that. You have to understand that from their perspective, the right is kind of winning. We got the presidency, we've got the House, we've got the Senate, and it looks like we're winning. Trump gets to say whatever he wants, and they've lost. So they go there to pick a fight. That's really all the left wanted to do. The left, and I'm talking about the bad left, the guys that were there to stir trouble, not the people that were just there because they were like, I don't like the symbolism. But see, you have to start separating that. Now, what were the guys on the right doing? Well, the guys on the right are racist. So they're there, those white supremacists, they're racist, plain and simple. They were there to say, yeah, we're going to keep this statue. We want it up because, we like the fact that Robert E. Lee wanted to kill people that wanted to get rid of slavery, because they still believe, I guess, some of them, or maybe all of them, in the neo-Nazi, white supremacist, white nationalist groups. And I don't say alt-right because, like Trump said in that video, define alt-right. What is alt-right? Nobody can define alt-right. So we're just going to leave alt-right out of this because I think it's a made-up thing. Nobody identifies as alt-right, but other people identify people as alt-right. But as far as the way people self-identify, I think there were people there that were just simply conservatives. And I'm sure there might have been even some liberals there that were like, leave the statue alone. But they don't care about those people. You see, when it's Islam, of course, well, if there's bad Muslims, you know, don't judge Islam by the bad Muslims. Instead, let's pick the best among Muslims, and that's how we'll judge Islam. But when it comes to the right, it's like, all right, let's look at the very worst on the right. And I'm not even sure that these guys are right. I mean, Nazis, I don't view them as right. They're socialists, which is left. But we won't get into that philosophical argument. You can go watch Stefan Molyneux if you want to get that kind of philosophical analysis, or maybe Dinesh D'Souza. But from the standpoint of those guys, they're trying to pick a fight. They want to fight. The people on the far left want a race war, and the ones on the far right want a race war. So, and then the socialists in general want a race war. They have to destroy the country so they can build it back up again. You know, it's kind of like that militaristic view where you break someone down before you can rebuild them better. And they think socialism is better. So, yeah, that's kind of where that is. I think these are just guys that want to pick a fight. They want to initiate a big fight, and they're winning. The guys on the left are winning because they have the press behind them. At every turn, they were trying to put words in Trump's mouth, telling him, "Oh well, you're saying that there's some fine people among the white supremacists?" No, because some people weren't there with the white supremacists. They were there because that's where the permit said they could be. So if the permit says this is where you can do your protest, they're all going to be in there together. That doesn't mean they want to be together. That doesn't mean they want to be there associated with those people. It means they're like, okay, they know in their minds, I'm not with those white supremacists. I'm here on my own as an individual. The optics never occurred to them. But it is what it is, and here we are. Now, that's kind of enough on that, since again this is going to be kept short because we're just kind of getting things set up and to see if I've got the audio set up, everything else. Now we're going to talk about something a little bit lighter, and I find this one interesting because it's crazy. There's actually a group of people that believe the earth is flat. Now, I'm not going to make fun of them because that's too easy, right? Because that's the default action. That's basically, you know, we talk politics and we talk about how the left they ridicule you. They immediately resort to calling you a Nazi, or they immediately resort to calling you a racist. They don't give you any reason why they think that way of you, or they don't give any reason why you are a racist. They can't explain it. It's just you are. Just because I said you are, you are. So these flat earther guys, I see most people on the globe earth side, which, you know, that's the side I'm on. The earth is a globe. I think that's been proven. I think, why would they even hide it to begin with? But then see, that's a dangerous question. Why would they do it? That's the problem with people in power. We don't understand because we're not crooked thinkers. So we're like, why would they do this? Why would they do this bad thing? Why would they do that bad thing? Of course, we can't grasp it because we don't think like bad people. If we thought like bad people, we would probably understand why they would do something like this. But the point is, these flat earthers believe the earth is flat, and all of the globe people, the people that believe the earth is a sphere, just ridicule them. They say, oh man, you're stupid. Why? But why don't you answer their questions? I can't answer some of their questions, and that's why we're talking about this. Even if it's silly, I want to know why they can't legitimately answer some of their questions. I'll give you an example. So if you're out on a beach and you're looking over the ocean. Now, keeping in mind the ocean is always level. You know, the water's perfectly wrapped around the globe, right? So if you're looking, if you can imagine being on a sphere, if you're standing on a ball, as you start to look outwards, straight ahead, so your eyes are parallel with the ground, although they could never be parallel with the ground on a globe because it'll eventually curve around, right? Well, at some point, the Earth is going to curve and you're going to lose sight of whatever is in the distance. It's going to disappear over the horizon because it's going beyond the curve. So you can't see it anymore. Yet, these guys are showing videos of things that are really far away. And there's a formula for figuring it out. It's something like 8 inches times miles squared, I think. So if something is 1 mile away, then 8 inches of it will be obscured by the curvature of the Earth. If it's 2 miles away, it'll be 64 inches away, etc. Or no, 64, yeah. It'll be 64 inches away. Or 32, whatever it is. The point is, it is not linear. The curve starts to slope off more and more. So, based on that, if something is 40 miles away, you know, it might be 900 feet beyond what you can see. So the curve of the Earth and where your eye level is would be seeing 900 feet above something that is 40 miles away. So there's no way you could see it because you can't see around a curve. So that one I can't answer. I mean, there's some other stupid things that I can't answer, but that's one that I would like somebody to answer sensibly. And then there's the other one, which is coming up with the eclipse being a really big thing right now. The eclipse is going to move from west to east. That's weird to me. Now I looked, and I found a guy from NASA explaining why it's happening, and I don't buy it because he didn't make any sense. He didn't explain it. He just said basically he said that's just the way it is. So what I would like everybody to do is go out and think about what these guys are saying, not because you want to lend them any credibility, but it's a good thought experiment for you. Have you ever really thought about how we know the Earth is a globe? How do we know it's a sphere? Have we ever thought about that? And it's a good way for you to exercise your brain and understand something that is very, scientific, and get your mind thinking a little more critically. Not because you're trying to prove the Earth is flat, but because we already know it's a globe. It's already been proven, but now think about why. How has it been proven? Look at it. Anyway, that's the lighter side of this. Anyway, thanks for watching. Obviously, only like 2 people were watching, but that's cool because it was a first stream and I just wanted to test it out. We've gone for 30 minutes already, sorta. And we're going to get out of here now. So thanks a lot.